HOGuru here with a quick look at some games I've played recently. As always, these are going to be reviewed out of 10 based on how interested I am in coming back and playing some more. Tool City. It's a match 3 game in the most basic sense. There are tool-themed squares, you swap them to make matches, and sometimes they create power blocks. We've seen this 100 times before, and we'll see it 100 times in the future. What makes the genre interesting is not the gameplay, which is reliably satisfying, but the twists and modes that the specific game offers. Chained blocks, having to uncover areas by making matches, unlocking special powers by completing certain objectives. Things like that. I played 30 levels of Tool City and found nothing to recommend it. Each level forces the player to clear a certain number of colored blocks, and when they've managed it, they move on to the next one. The music changes sometimes, but that's it. There's nothing to collect, no story to speak of, and despite the fact that all of the matchables are tool-themed, the player doesn't gradually see buildings being constructed in the background. It's unimpressive, even for a bare-bones match 3 game. 2 out of 10. Fall of Porcupine. You've got to play Fall of Porcupine. It's a delight. Yes, it cribs most of its vibe and presentation from Night in the Woods and never manages to hit like an emotional truck the way that game does, but it's still a wonderful experience from start to finish. I want to say as little as possible here to avoid spoilers, although I already posted an ending explained video, so I guess the cat's kind of out of the bag there. But this is one of those games that deserves to be played knowing as little as possible about the story going in. There's a pigeon doctor, you do mini-games to control his doctor stuff, and the town is full of interesting characters that are worth stopping and checking in with. It doesn't have big things to say about the human condition, but it's nonetheless an empathetic presentation of the challenges faced by people working in the medical field. Just a pleasure to play from beginning to end. I finished it out of 10. Library. While the look of the game suggests a Survivor-like, this is actually a Crimson Land-style mouse-look shooter. It doesn't even have controller support yet. It does, however, have some nice vibes. It's got the kill monsters in an area to unlock major upgrades mechanic, lots of modifiers that massively change gameplay in the middle of a run. The fantasy setting, with crossbows and magic wands abound, works well enough. But I kept running into technical issues. When I first tried to play the game, not only would it not start, it wouldn't close either, forcing me to reboot my computer so that Steam didn't think it was running anymore. Now it just crashes every 20 minutes or so, which is a deeply frustrating way to lose a run. Hopefully they get the bugs out sooner rather than later, and perhaps consider adding auto aim and shoot? Just turn this into a Survivor-like, is what I'm saying, since that's what it looks like anyway. 3 out of 10. Femdemic. The thing about idle clicker games is that they're all the exact same game. Power up passive income by clicking, click on bonuses to ramp up score, complete one stage and then unlock perks for the next run. If you've played one, you've literally played them all. The only thing that changes is whether you find the setting appealing. Do you like making cookies so good that eventually they replace all human endeavor? There's a game for that. Do you like hiring kiwis to deliver kiwis to the kingwee? There's a game for that as well. Do you want to control a virus that transforms men into women, gradually turning Earth into a woman-only paradise? Femdemic has you covered. I can't predict whether you'll like the game. It's a perfectly serviceable passive clicker, like all the rest. So it's really down to whether you want to see pornographic depictions of bimbofication, or, in the non-porno mode, an inspiring tale of trans women getting to live in a more accepting society. It's not something I'm going to play a ton of. I swore off the genre after way too much cookie clicker. But it's perfectly good at what it does. 5 out of 10. Freediver. Triton down. Simulated swimming in VR? What? I mean, it's clunky at first, since the player is standing or sitting, not in a prone position, as they would be while actually swimming. But after not too long, I got the hang of it, and was moving through the water with ease. This allowed me to really appreciate the game's setting. A quickly sinking ship that the player has to escape, with the help of a strange creature they found while exploring a blue hole. The mechanics of it, smashing locks, rerouting power, using handholds to move slowly against the current, all feel great, and the claustrophobia-inducing ship design is a thing of beauty. Be warned though, While this is sold as a complete product, it's only the first chapter of a story. Expect a cliffhanger after escaping the ship, with the game ending abruptly just as the real story gets started. It's a great experience that I'm glad I got to play, but keep in mind that it's only about 40 minutes from beginning to end. Maybe less if you're better at it than I was. Still, it held my attention all the way through, and it gets an I beat it out of 10. Monster College. It's a sexy monster college full of sexy monsters. In visual novel format! What more do you want, people? In this game, the player controls a werewolf who, in classic teen fantasy format, discovers he has unusual powers and is thrown into a world of magic and mystery. Although in this one, everyone is over 18, so there's just so much nudity. More than you'd expect, even in just the first hour I played. Beyond all of the prurient content, the story seems to be going in an interesting direction. Someone has stolen the item that allows the Monster University to remain hidden from the public. But why? And for what reason? I'm guessing that there's no way to find out yet. The game is still in early access, so there's probably not a lot more content than the hour I played, at least based on the achievements yet to be unlocked. But I managed to see some meaningful branching already by the time I stopped. The main character is constantly working on his werewolf abilities and has to choose between two different options at each upgrade, such as improving his smell or vision. Whether the player has certain abilities will open up different branches during the storyline, changing what information they have access to, maybe even more later on. If the game gets completed sometime in the near future, I could definitely see myself checking out the rest of the plot. 7 out of 10. Land of Towers. I hope you like maintaining watchtowers, because this game offers that in spades. A slice of life sim about construction, Land of Towers impressed me with how forward-thinking it was when it comes to making VR interactions comfortable. Once players find a tool, it's always in their tool belt. No more searching around for where you left that saw. Random construction items can be placed in an inventory so that the player always knows where to find them, and most importantly, the player can, I expect you to die style, hover items in midair to keep them easily at hand for multi-stage projects. The developers have found the perfect line between accessibility and simulation, and other than forgetting to include pincers, which forced me to retrieve something from a forge by floating an empty bucket and awkwardly dragging the thing out with a spike, this made construction in VR feel great, for maybe the first time ever? I'm interested to see what challenges it holds for me next. 6 out of 10. Mr. Run and Jump. This neon-soaked platformer is almost dangerously addictive. It starts out as a lost Atari 2600 game, with the extremely blocky main character chasing his similarly blocky dog through 240 pixel environments. But then a warp zone pulls the character into an 80s extravaganza of flashing lights and deadly obstacles. This thing is a masterpiece of platforming design. The player has access to a wealth of movement options, dashing, rolling, vaulting, high jumps, triangle jumps. It almost seems daunting at first, just how mobile this little guy is. But after a few levels, racing past spikes, skulls, and, of all things, frogs, becomes like a second nature. As with all sadistic platforms, it took me a few tries to get used to the physics and momentum of the game. But once I got the hang of it, the super trite controls allowed me to zip through levels in no time at all. Until, of course, I started trying to collect all of the gems and power spheres that are hidden throughout those levels. If most of the obstacles in the game are tough, the bonus areas are positively punishing. There was a set of frogs that I swear took me 60 tries to get past. That's not a complaint either. The game always makes it feel like success is just within reach, and it provides players with frequent enough checkpoints that it feels like the game is actively encouraging players to try just one more time. Truly an exceptional platformer that I'm absolutely going to be finishing. 9 out of 10. London Ripper. Another one of the puppet combo inheritors in which players run around a PS1-styled world trying not to get murdered by a knife-wielding maniac. This one is Jack the Ripper themed, with the player controlling a sex worker spending her last night on the job before fleeing the city with her husband. The goal is to visit enough brothels to make sufficient money to rent a hotel room, allowing you to survive the night. Pro tip: don't cheap out. Get the most expensive of the 3 hotels available. After a cheap death based on my cheap habits, I considered quitting the game, but I wound up playing it all the way through for one simple reason. The chase mechanics of this game are surprisingly fair for the genre. Jack will chase the player until they reach one of the game's 6 open buildings, but he's not any faster than the main character. The West End of London is made up of dark, narrow alleys, and the game's hook is that players are challenged to remember their way around them, even when the screen gets fuzzy and piercing electronic music plays in the soundtrack. But so long as players manage to keep their wits intact and are able to build decent mental maps of 3D spaces, they should be able to get all the way through this harrowing and gory experience, just as I did. Which means it gets an I beat it out of 10. I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons coming up to help with that. There's links for all the games covered in this down in the description, and if there's anything you'd like me to check out, drop it in the comments section. I'll see you back here once I've had a chance to try a few more games, but until then I'll say that's right. Au revoir.